Welcome to the latest episode of our podcast series for financial advisors. Today's episode is From $125 million to $700 million, the story of growth and grit in the independent broker-dealer space. It's a conversation with Brett Oley and Ryan Kinser, co-founders and managing partners of Oley Kinser Concierge Wealth. I'm Jason Diamond, and this is the Diamond Podcast for Financial Advisors.
At Diamond Consultants, our mission is to help advisors live their best business life. We want every elite advisor to find exactly the right place for their business and their clients to thrive, whether it's at a wirehouse, a regional, boutique, or independent firm. As the industry's leading recruiters and consultants, we've transitioned more than $250 billion in assets under management in the past decade, and each year, 25% of transitioning advisors who manage $1 billion or more are our clients. If you'd like to talk, please feel free to give us a call at 908-879-1002. Are you a financial advisor who's curious about whether you're in the best place to serve clients or if there might be a better way to optimize your business for the future? Should I Stay or Should I Go is a new book that serves as a self-guided journey, walking you through the key steps that Diamond Consultants takes with our advisor clients, whether considering change or not. Visit diamond-consultants.com/thebook to learn more.
Every now and then, we get to revisit a story that perfectly captures what's possible in the industry when you take a leap, and back it up with grit, vision, and client-first conviction. Brett Oley first appeared on this podcast back in 2018, just after launching his independent business through Raymond James, with $125 million in assets under management. Today, alongside founding partner Ryan Kinser, that firm, Oley Kinser Concierge Wealth, has grown to manage over $700 million in client assets. But the numbers are just the beginning. Along the way, Brett and Ryan completed 2 acquisitions, wrote 2 books, and grew their team to 8, all while staying true to their North Star, providing exceptional concierge-level client service. Their story started in an unexpected place, a hotel pool in Dubai during an MBA program abroad. That chance meeting sparked a partnership rooted in friendship, aligned values, and a shared entrepreneurial drive. After time at UBS, Brett and Ryan made the leap to independence, young and hungry to build something meaningful. In this episode, they talk about their journey and share how they scaled their business and grew both organically and inorganically, why they believe the independent broker-dealer model offers the right balance of freedom and support, how they've intentionally built a team and culture that's as strong as their growth story, and much more. It's a powerful look at what's possible when you combine bold thinking with an unwavering focus on doing right by the client. So let's jump in. Brett, Ryan, thank you so much for joining us. We've actually had you back on the show, Brett, back in 2018, and you had just launched your business. At the time, it was around $125 million in assets, but catch us up. Just remind our audience of your background, your career in wealth management. Brett, as our repeat guest, we'll start with you, and then Ryan, please, same question.
Wow, time does fly. I'd say 7 years since we last spoke on here. It was really honored to be back there with Lemony Diamond, and now again with you. As her son, love to see that legacy continued, all the success you've had there, Diamond Consultants. So thank you for having us, Jason. I grew up in a small town by the name of Vermillion on the southern shore of Lake Erie. It's about 45 minutes west of Cleveland. I also have to add that my dad, Bill Oley, who's the owner of a roofing company that did really well there in Cleveland. And I was always overhearing his conversations, seeing him engage in the adventures of capitalism, just seeing how well he took care of people in his company and with his customers. So really a special thank you to him. My mom balanced that as well by encouraging and believing in me, keep my feet on the ground, but to reach for the stars. Both really just solid role models. Fast forward a bit, I earned my undergrad degree from Georgetown University, double major in finance and management with a concentration in new and small business. And that second and last semester of my senior year, I had an adjunct professor at Georgetown. His name was Will Flannery, who taught entrepreneurship. My favorite class in all my years there. Will at that time was also actively a financial advisor at UBS in Washington, D.C. I believe he still is. We stay in touch a bit. And his class was just different. To me, he brought a fire to what he did. And I have takeaways from that class that I still apply today. So I did about a year and a half of management consulting after Georgetown, working with fantastic, smart people, learned a lot about business, industries. I was hit by that bug of entrepreneurship. And I just had that fire inside me. So I called Will, 2005. We met up for dinner in Washington, D.C. I laid out my plan to him. I was going to move to Fort Myers. My parents, they lived in Florida at the time as residents, and secure a career there at UBS as a new financial advisor. So I flew down here, Fort Myers, met with Dino Regazzo at the time, the ranch manager at the UBS. They interviewed me. Thankfully, was hired. Soon thereafter, I was driving down to Florida. I had to do the 7 and 66 in Boulder. So completed that new FA program, getting my broker ID in the spring of 2006. And from there, after just 48 months, our class had dwindled from 55 trainees down to 3 of us. By October 2017, I was running a successful practice at UBS, roughly 85 million in assets under management, but just wanting more and feeling limited. I really just felt restrained there. And after a lot of research, looking at different practices and firms out there, I made the jump fully independent through Raymond James Financial Services, through their channel. And not to pat my back ever, but it was a testament, I think, just to client care. My assistant and I brought over 99% of our clients, showing that people really did business with their advisor, not their firm. Shortly thereafter, I met Ryan Kinser right around that area. And again, I always say the best part of earning my MBA at University of Florida in 2013 was meeting Ryan. We were first friends, but in getting to know him further after he himself joined UBS in Naples, I could tell that we were just cut of the same cloth, carrying that internal entrepreneurial fire and looking to really build out something special and amazing for our clients. We joined forces on May 11th, 2018, just 7 years, almost to the day here, starting Oley and Kinser Concierge Well. And now we're about 125 million together with one assistant, just 900 square feet of office space, but we had some big aspirations. Fast forward another 7 years to where we are now. We built a team of 8, managed about 700 million in assets, acquired 2 books of business, authored 2 books, picture now 3,000 square feet office. There's a lot of room here. And built an amazingly well-run enterprise. All a bit hair-raising, but a whole lot of fun. I've been grateful for him as my partner, how much our team and our practice has grown. We still work really hard, but it is super fulfilling.
I love it. There's a lot there, but Ryan, I'll give you a chance to answer the same question. You want to just add on anything on the background points?
Thanks, Jason. I'll start my story after graduation from the University of Central Florida. I actually started my career formally at Citigroup in July of 2009, off the financial crisis, which was an interesting time in the industry, as we all know. Citigroup at the time was hiring young analysts out of school with the goal of using technology to create operational efficiencies. And I was on the global custody side of the business. And I quickly learned Visual Basic and SQL coding, which we use to automate and streamline those processes. The experience handling and managing data actually led me to the business intelligence unit within Citigroup's global custody division. And there I was fortunate to have a great mentor at Citi, a gentleman by the name of Michael Halava that was located in London, of all places. Michael provided me with a great opportunity and actually taught me a tremendous amount about business analytics and data management. At the time, I never thought the data analysis experience would eventually benefit me in the wealth management industry, but it does on nearly a daily basis. While at Citigroup, I began the professional MBA program at the University of Florida, Go Gators. The program provided the opportunity to study abroad in Abu Dhabi and Dubai that year. And aside from being an incredible experience, the decision to participate in the Study Abroad program changed my life. Brett also made the same decision, and we actually, believe it or not, met at the pool at our hotel in Dubai. We chatted quite a bit, and I mentioned my ultimate goal was to make the move over to the wealth management side of the business. We kept in touch following the program, and Brett was instrumental in my shift over to the wealth management side of the business. As I was moving from Tampa, Florida down to Naples, Florida, just a few months later, and starting a role at the UBS private wealth management team here in Naples. At the same time, I was working on both the certified financial planner and chartered financial analyst designations. I moved on from the UBS private wealth management team and began building my own book of business at UBS. And then Brett and I continued to be in touch. We were very close friends, and we eventually moved our books of business over to Raymond James Financial Services, with Brett making the move in October of 2017, and then myself following shortly thereafter in May of 2018.
Oh, that's incredibly interesting background. I think Dubai might be the first we've heard that. We've had a lot of college roommates or childhood friends, but I don't know if we've ever had a story of people meeting in Dubai. So very interesting. There's a couple elements of your story that I want to double click on. Certainly the training program. I think it's fascinating, the idea that the training program went from 55 to 3. But before we even get there, what caught my eye with your breakaway story, your move to independence, was you transitioned from UBS to RJFS with relatively small amount of assets. And we get this question a lot from advisors. Like, do you feel like there's a minimum size that's needed before you consider a leap to independence? And how did you guys think about that at the time?
Great question. I guess it depends on a number of factors for anyone. There's just no real perfect time. I think I had 3-month-old at the time. It's always difficult, but again, no perfect time. We really encourage your listeners that haven't made the jump to really explore your options, know the pros, cons, and why this may make sense for them, their family, clients. But in any case, I think always just moving in that direction. It's not a question of so much like if, but when, I think, for most people, and just slowly making progress. And they know the potential risk better than anyone. We knew the risk really well going into it. Just keep in mind that risk, again, is only going to grow with time. As both you, your firm, they're going to continue to grow roots. And we always just think big picture, but just life's not a dress rehearsal. This is it. We have no regrets. Supremely pleased with where we are and making the jump to independence. I don't know, maybe just throwing out a number. I'd say perhaps 50 million in assets nowadays, really make it worth it. I felt like Ryan and I did it just the right time. And a lot of people say like, I wish I did it sooner. But again, we had to do it right. And I think what's probably also just more important maybe is not so much the size necessarily, but just the qualitative, like, you gotta make sure you have the vision. I would argue that's a lot more important, again, than any quantitative metric necessarily. It's just gonna take a lot of work. The challenge is out there, but it's absolutely rewarding and worth it. And now you're in charge of your destiny and unbridled.
I totally agree. It's much more about the vision and the entrepreneurial spirit. I do think, by the way, I like that you didn't totally dodge the question in terms of putting a number to it, because I do think that I think 50 million is the number, in part because, remember, as an independent business owner, you got to generate revenue to earn a living off the book. And a $50 million book, after paying for all expenses, broker dealers, real estate, and the like, probably leaves you with enough to do that. But there's no hard and fast rule. I mean, we see people go independent, certainly with much less than that. And you alluded to what I think is a really interesting dynamic, which is that almost every guest on this show says, I wish I did it sooner. But then at the same time, there's this perception that you need a certain amount of assets to do this. So I actually really applaud how you guys went about this and did it probably on the smaller side. But now it feels like by doing that, it enabled you to grow and get to the point you are today. Like, maybe I would just ask you directly, do you feel like if you didn't make that leap, you would be at the same size or the same success you are today?
Absolutely not. No, it's just a whole different feeling when this is now your baby and your heart's not in it. So again, it's not quite the same feeling, and it's hard to describe unless you've done it.
We'll spend most of the time talking about the today, but before we leave 7 years ago, I want to ask one more question about that experience, if you can remember that long ago. What was the client reaction to the move? So did you ever get the question of, why did you do this? Or are you crazy? And maybe how did you just tell your story of, here's why Brett and Ryan did this?
In some ways, I guess it was just a little bit anticlimactic. I think everybody pictures this like Jerry Maguire, like getting on the phone, like, show me the money, like just call it each client. Like, it really was just not that at all. Not really all that exciting in a way. I mean, yeah, I was definitely a little bit nervous going into it, but I guess one just got to remember that the clients are doing business again with them and not the firm. How you take care of them, right? Make them feel the way that you've been there, like in the year preceding that move, that's where the real work was done, not on the day of transition and working down a list if you can. It was different back then. It was still protocol days. But again, Ryan and I are really fortunate. We brought everybody over. Essentially, you're going to kick the hornet's nest a little bit in some ways over the other firm. But again, that's just kind of that backdrop. People are going to follow you if you take exceptional care of them.
And I'll add on to that, Jason, too. It was actually leading up to the experience. You never know how it's going to go. But once the dust settled and all was said and done, it was, like Brett mentioned, a very anticlimactic experience. And we actually had a great response from clients. I mean, we had a client, just thinking of One of our clients brought a bottle of champagne in because they were so happy for us to make the move and see the entrepreneurial spirit flourish. And size-wise, I always reflect back to the experience as well, because Raymond James, and I'll have to give a little bit of a plug to our recruiter at the time, John Shoppy, irregardless of size, he made you feel throughout the recruitment process as if you were the only advisor that he was there to help guide over to the RJFS side. So I always reflect back and thank John for treating us and myself as just a very sizable team and making us feel like we were the only primary focus of his at that time.
Yeah, it's a great answer. It's probably one of those things, and you would know this better than anybody having done this, where even if you have that ultimate confidence, you've got the best client relationships, and you know it's going to be a success, that moment in time is going to be a scary moment because it's your livelihood, right? That's your life's work. And until you get it out the door and successfully get the independent business up and running, there is an element of risk. And I don't blame advisors for being fearful or worried about a disruptive transition or worried about that process in the least. But I'm glad to hear that yours was such a positive experience. I want to fast forward now to today. You've basically, by my math, 5x'd the business, over 500% growth. This is a hard question, but if you had to point to one driver of that extraordinary growth, what would it be?
I think the foundation of what we do, Brett and I are great friends, we're business partners, but most importantly, we're both dedicated to putting in the hard work it takes to build a successful business. I think when we really reflect back, a lot of what we do is in the business on a day-to-day basis, of course, but we make sure we find time to work on the business. And that's important. You always work in the business, but you want to make sure you have time to work on the business. And we do that each quarter, which that actually primarily consists of myself inviting myself over to Brett's house for dinner. I think we both also value our time very much, and we're willing to spend money to hire phenomenal team members. And we believe that we, right now at the moment, have a truly exceptional team. We recognize that we can both individually only do so much. So again, I'll go back to the sports terms. What we try to do is put our playmakers in a position to make the plays. And that additional time by having the right people, that allows us to spend time with clients and working on business development initiatives as well. And we are, I will admit, we're fortunate to be in a state where there is a constant inflow of new residents. So the geographic location and the high concentration of wealth here in Naples does help as well.
Totally fair. And by the way, I don't think that's unique just to Naples or South Florida. There's a number of advisors now who follow the money and have ended up in what I call like the new money centers, right? Charleston, Nashville, certainly some of the South Florida markets. I don't think that's a story that's necessarily unique to Florida. That's a really fair and honest assessment of what got you from there to here. We're big Jim Collins fans, and he talks about having the right people on the bus. And it sounds similar to what you're describing, putting your playmakers in position to succeed, even if ultimately, by the way, you guys are not those playmakers. I think that's one of the things that some advisors, especially wirehouse advisors or ex-wirehouse advisors, sometimes struggle with the leap to independence is your world or your day-to-day at least changes from being 100% financial advisor because the firm takes care of just about everything to being really player coach, to continue your sports analogy. Is that a fair statement?
That absolutely is a fair statement.
Okay. Let's talk now. The fact that you have bought 2 books in a pretty short period of time is extraordinary. We get asked this question quite literally every day. I want to buy a book. I'm interested. What's the process like, etc. So I want to spend some time now talking about your acquisitions. First of all, tell me about the process. Was it enjoyable, cumbersome, time-consuming, easy, hard? Give me some specifics about what that was actually like.
Yeah, that's a great question, Jason. Brett and I actually view the inorganic side of our business similar to that of the organic side. We're very seasonal here in Naples, so we primarily focus on the organic growth aspect of our business, really from the November through April timeframe. But then we shift gears over to the inorganic side, being our primary driver in the summer months. We have an entire prospective advisor process in place where we take the time up front to understand truly what's important to the selling advisor. And then we have an entire succession planning deck prepared, highlighting our experience in acquisitions, highlighting our goal, which is a win-win-win scenario for the clients, the selling advisor, and of course, us, our team. We highlight our strength in infrastructure of our team, in the ability and capacity for us to handle an acquisition, and then the exceptional care we'll take of the clients and of course the selling advisor's team members. The first acquisition that we did was a longtime friend. Brett knew Mark McCaw and the McCaw family from his UBS days. And we kept in close touch with Mark and met on a quarterly basis to chat about our businesses. And we were also Mark's catastrophic successor. One day, we received the call that you never want to receive. Mark did have a terminal illness, and we nearly immediately began the planning process. All said, Mark did an absolutely incredible job ensuring a successful succession took place, both for his clients and also his family. We spent a tremendous amount of time prior to the acquisition preparing client communications, spending time sitting down, reviewing each client scenario with Mark to learn as much as possible ahead of the introductory meetings. And then we pride ourselves on military-like precision. And we actually had about a 15-page, step-by-step, day-by-day guide to ensure our execution of the succession plan was done with precision. And I will say Raymond James' succession planning division was also incredibly helpful in the process. And we're fortunate to have great relationships with the succession planning division, and specifically Keith Copperroot and Robin Ucci. They were our guide along the acquisition journey.
That's a really good explanation of the first deal, certainly. Was there teachings from closing that transaction that you were able to apply when it came time to do this again? Were you more excited the second time too?
That's a great question, Jason. We absolutely were. We had seen the process from end to end, and now we fully understood what it took to successfully acquire a practice. And so I would say that the preparation ahead of the formal announcement was instrumental in our process, both go-arounds. It's almost like the glacier and the iceberg. You spend majority of your amount of time behind the scenes working on the preparation of the acquisition. And then when it comes through to execute, you're meeting with clients, you're doing the easy part there. And so we fully understand how the deals now work from end to end, from financing, the upfront payout, to the contractual component, to the integration of this selling advisor's book of business into ours.
Let's talk now about the financing and the structuring of the deal. So did Raymond James help at all? Like, what was that process? Because I think that question comes up when people are choosing either a broker dealer or some sort of support platform to run a business, an independent business on, is one of the reasons why I'm choosing firm or platform or broker dealer A over platform or firm or broker dealer B is they're going to help me either to source or structure or close M&A deals. Did Raymond James help at all? And how did you finance them?
Yeah, that's a great question, Jason. Raymond James, I will say, was instrumental in both our acquisitions. And the interesting aspect of the deals is they're essentially negotiable between buyer and seller in terms of the terms. The deal negotiation aspect, we jokingly call Raymond James Switzerland, as their role of this succession planning division is to ensure from an operational perspective, everything is smooth from the transition between buyer and seller rather than representing either party. From a financing perspective, we've been very fortunate to work directly with Raymond James on the financing of the upfront payout in both of our deals. We know the exact information the underwriters will need and generally have it readily available in the event an opportunity ever arises in the future. In terms of deal structure, our two deals have been interesting as the market environment has changed and we've adapted. In our second deal, we were in a bit of a higher interest rate environment. And so we put more emphasis on the earnout and less on a upfront payout, but we offered what we believe to be a very healthy multiple.
Excellent. So I like how you think about M&A as one, it seems like anyway, as one of the arrows in your quiver, one kind of tool in the toolkit to grow the business. The other one you've alluded to, and the reason I honed in on your comment earlier about the training program is because so many advisors tell us how poor and how much of a gap that is in the industry. There's just not a great training ground. And it means that when you want to hire young next-gen talent, it's very difficult to do so. So in addition to the M&A, in addition to growing your business, you've also grown your team, your human capital. What are you looking for when you hire? And any tips or best practices you would share to make hiring, finding, retaining talent easier?
That's an excellent question, Jason, and one that's quite interesting. I think Brett and I, we value the enjoyable, energetic, positive culture within our team. So the first criteria that a new team member they'll have to integrate with our existing team. When Brett and I are hiring, we take a bit of a unique approach. We can always teach a team member the investment side of the business. What we can't teach is how a person carries themselves, their mannerisms, and how they communicate with others. In my opinion, you can have the most intelligent investment expert, but if they can't communicate clearly in an understandable way with a high net worth client, it doesn't help our team too much. What we want is people with grit that are willing to work hard. We consider ourselves a Navy SEAL team. Any team member not carrying their weight causes the other team members to have to work harder. And interestingly, we've had actually a tremendous amount of success bringing on former teachers into the wealth management industry. And we currently have 2 teachers on our team of 8. And to generalize, they communicate clearly, they're patient and empathetic, and they're also detailed and very diligent. We can't teach those traits, but what we can teach you is finance. In terms of retaining exceptional talent, we're building a culture and a business where we hope people want to be. We also align our compensation packages to the growth of the enterprise, so everybody has skin in the game, especially as we continue to grow our business.
It's so funny you say that because we also have a teacher on our staff and we totally agree with you. And I actually love that answer because you gave what I think is really good, actionable advice. Like that's a specific sort of, and by the way, I agree with your thinking that it's a lot easier to teach the finance skills than it is to teach some of the softer stuff like client service, like empathy, like caring, like drive. That ties nicely into this concept of culture. And I know culture is a buzzword and a lot of people throw it around, but one of the things you said to me offline, or maybe it's from your website, is that you've built a fulfilling practice and culture for your team. Can you explain what you mean by that? Tell me about your culture. How do you guys define it?
Yeah, I'd say, again, totally. Culture is kind of the heart and the soul of your business. It's sometimes hard to put into words, but again, just what you have there, that environment that you created. We really believe in an empowered team. Again, what we're trying to do is create that environment where they can flourish and be part of something exciting and expanding enterprise. I know some of those may just sound like buzzwords, but again, we really try to cultivate that and create it here. Regardless of change and growth, there's going to be all kinds of crazy things that happen in the world and interesting things that happen in clients. And we got washed out in a hurricane. But again, throughout all of it, it's staying together and working together as a unit. It's really got to be durable. So we want a place, an environment, again, where our team members are fulfilled, generally loving what they do. Not every day is roses for all of us. But again, for client dealings, for one another, we should all be working together. We've really built that, I'd say, that enterprise that's focused on growth, which is just exciting. I think whether it be personal or professional goals, always looking forward to something. And again, like I said earlier in the conversation, just keeping our feet on the ground, which is important too. Never get too big of an ego. That can happen a little bit sometimes in this industry, but also just reaching for the stars. It's just important to be part of that and something that's creating where we feel that we're all part of that together.
What I find interesting there is you talk about creating a place where people want to work, an exciting place to work. And I think what you're talking about is your independent wealth management business, but it's not lost on me that you also affiliate with Raymond James. You have a support partner, a broker dealer behind you. I ask this question anytime we have an independent broker dealer guest on the show, because most advisors who consider an independent broker dealer are also at least curious about the RIA space. So I'm wondering, do you ever feel like you've outgrown the broker dealer model? Did you 7 years ago or today ever consider the more pure play RIA space, or do you feel really well served in your current setup?
Another great question. It's interesting because I've seen personally both sides. I know Ryan has as well there. Myself having 12 years at UBS, their employee channel, now 8 years in the independent channel through Raymond James Financial Services. But I guess right now we're just really very happy and it's working really well. Limitations, I think right now, again, if you got to think of anything, again, really a reach. Sometimes, especially in the independent channel, riding down that a little bit. Just in the beginning, maybe you feel a little bit on an island, I guess. We just think it's so important to share best practices, learn from others, just discuss your successes, areas of improvement, even failures with your teammates. And it's sometimes just hard to do that if you're a solo independent assistant. But at the same time, we do feel like, again, people in the independent space, they're no longer trailblazers. There's tens of thousands out there. So just make friends with your, again, broker dealer friends. They may go independent someday too. You never know. Meet other independents in town, breakfast, lunch, coffee, conferences. Just last week, the 8 of us on our team, we went up to Orlando for our Raymond James National Conference. But again, just circling back to your question there, I think for where we are right now, it's Goldilocks. Are we ready for RIA? No. Are we ever going to go there? Who knows exactly? But again, it's just working so well right now. We're just really happy. We feel like it's a really good, kind of good place.
Hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Absolutely believe in that. And it sounds like Raymond James has been a really good partner to you. So I want to ask now two more kind of concluding questions here. One is about marketing and the autonomy around marketing. That's certainly a big driver of, I don't want to say necessarily that's the reason why everybody moves to independence, but it's a major pain point among wirehouse advisors. This idea that I can't communicate freely with clients, or COVID was a big example. In the middle of all this turmoil, amid crazy market backdrops, I'm not allowed to send a video or a message to my clients without 7 layers of approval. And it takes 2 weeks. And by the time I get it approved, it's stale. Obviously, in the independent space, the world is your oyster. And you guys have really lived that ethos. You've written 2 books. So I'm wondering why and how. Like, tell me a little bit about that process.
Yeah, that's a great question, Jason. And that's something we've enjoyed doing since we've been independent. And really since the early days in business, Brett and I have always dreamed of being published authors. And that was really just the main driver of our first book, which is titled The Pillars of Planning. We essentially wanted to share an easy to understand, layman's terms overview of each of the planning concepts that we navigate clients through on a daily basis, from financial planning to the components of a great investment recipe to estate planning, and more recently, even behavioral finance, which would be applicable. We've developed an entire marketing ecosystem around Florida residency to capitalize on our geographic location, which our book, Sunshine State Strategy, sits right at the center of. We wanted to position ourselves both as subject matter experts and also, add credibility on whatever topics we cover. We approached the books in 2 different ways, which was really interesting. With our first book, The Pillars of Planning, we literally started with a blank Word document, and it took about 2 years to write, edit, and publish the book. It was very time consuming, but a very cost-effective process. On the contrary, with Sunshine State Strategy, we took a completely different approach, and we actually hired a professional book publishing company to help us navigate the process and actually ghostwrite the book with our informational guidance. That was a very efficient process, but naturally a much more expensive process. Both books have been a great experience, and Brett and I joke that as technology advances, our third book will likely be written with artificial intelligence in probably about 20 seconds.
Probably not so much of a joke, for better or worse, actually. That's very funny. So I totally agree, by the way. Mindy Diamond, our former CEO and founder, also wrote a book for a lot of the same reasons. It's part about sharing expertise. It's part about it's a great marketing tool. And it's really leaving a legacy and passing on that knowledge in a digestible format, I assume for you guys in the case of your clients and your prospects. Any other key marketing initiatives, like, for example, video, podcasting, obviously podcasting, but anything else that comes to mind as a really interesting and cool marketing story in the independent space?
Yeah, I think one of the ones that stemmed a little bit from the, COVID days, Ryan and I were here at the office. We're still trying to reach out to people. And so what we started was, we call it monthly meetings. And on our website, it's oleykinserwealth.com, give a little plug, but it really gives a video every month. We've done this, like 60 of them, I think. And what we do is, again, engage with local business leaders, whether they're entrepreneurs, self-made, just hear their story. And a lot of it's not in the industry. And we record it, do the video, and we send it out to all our clients, all our prospects. And it's just a nice, non-threatening drip. I mean, not everybody wants to hear about interest rates and the economy every month. So I think that's really interesting, hearing someone else's story. So we've done that, and people love it. It's surprising that people actually, in the beginning, are like, is anyone actually going to watch this? But it's been a nice, again, gentle way of staying in touch with people and being top of mind.
Brilliant. All right, last question. I'm going to assume that your aspirations, your goals are to get to $1 billion and beyond. What does it take to get there? Are there additional resources you need, or is it just a matter of time?
The age-old question, right? Where are we going from here? I think, Ryan and I, our team, we talk a lot about this. We think a lot about it. I just say right now, Ryan and I, we say that we're going to aim to be in the top 5 practices at Raymond James in terms of production. But beyond all that, I think just enjoying what we do. I'm 43, Ryan's 38. We could be really super successful, doing really well financially, but if we're not happy and not looking forward to this, that's no fun. So I think just as we grow, we would say quality first over quantity. And again, I know that maybe sounds a little cliche, but always taking care of our existing clients, as we grow, we're going to pursue larger relationships. But again, just always making sure that this is something that we just love doing. Progress, healthy challenges to look forward to, taking care of our team. I'd say additional acquisitions are definitely on the radar. We've got a 2 to 3 in the works right now. And just, I think, always enhancing, fine-tuning that recipe, that Kaizen, that Japanese philosophy on continuous improvement. That's just like our lifeblood in terms of just making things better here. So I guess at the end of it, maybe just looking back at what we built someday, it'd be really cool to create something truly unique, special for our team, clients, our families. I guess just something that we're proud of, that we did it right. So maybe not all about money, but that'd be cool too if that all came together. And that's what we're working on.
Incredibly impressive story, especially at the age and the stage in the game you are both at. It's really remarkable. And we are excited to have you back on. I guess by my math, that would be 2032 would be our next 7-year update. And I'm expecting big things. So thank you both so much for joining. This was a pleasure.
We would love it. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Jason.
As a financial advisor, you hold yourself to the highest standards of integrity, honesty, and credibility. You are successful because you take your professional responsibilities seriously and are dedicated to your clients. But are you living your best business life? Are your goals aligned with your firm's, or could a better option exist? Should I Stay or Should I Go is a book written with you in mind. It's a self-guided journey that walks you through the key steps that we take with our advisor clients. This strategic thought process and roadmap to professional self-discovery is designed to help you ask the right questions and think critically and objectively, whether you're considering change or not. Learn how to get your copy at diamond-consultants.com/thebook.